This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories. Here's a quick but big spoiler warning for the Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian. Trust me, if you have not seen the episode yet, do not watch this, because a lot of stuff happens in this episode. The crew take an Imperial shuttle to capture Dr. Pershing. Once they board the shuttle, he is taken hostage by one of the pilots. Kara saves him, and the crew continue on to recruit Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan and Kuska Reeves get into an intense fight with Boba Fett before it is broken up, and Bo-Katan does agree to help because she wants to reclaim the Darksaber. Using a fake attack from Slave 1 as cover, the Imperial ship lands in the hangar. Djarin goes to disable the Dark Troopers and rescue Grogu, as the rest of the crew goes to take the bridge. The crew is successful at taking the bridge, but for Djarin, things aren't as easy. He runs into a single Dark Trooper that manages to escape from the room before Djarin can close the door. Djarin struggles to fight this trooper and is eventually able to destroy it by shoving the Beskar spear into the neck of the droid. Djarin ejects the rest into space and goes to Grogu's cell, where he finds Moff Gideon waiting for him with the Darksaber ignited over Grogu. Gideon tells him to drop the blaster, and they begin to talk. Gideon explains that he's got everything he needs from Grogu, since he only needed his blood to study, and if Djarin takes him and leaves, all will be good. Djarin believes this and goes to grab Grogu, where Gideon attacks him from behind. Gideon and Djarin get into a fight, with Djarin using the spear and Gideon using the Darksaber. Djarin is eventually able to overcome Gideon and defeat him, and claims the Darksaber from him. Djarin now enters the bridge with Grogu. Gideon is a prisoner, and the Darksaber in his hand. Bo-Katan looks furious, and Moff Gideon is able to joyfully explain that now if Bo-Katan wants the Darksaber, she must fight Din Djarin for it by ancient Mandalorian tradition. Djarin insists on giving the Darksaber back to Bo-Katan, but she refuses because she knows it would be against tradition and she would not be seen as a true leader of the Mandalorians. Before anything can happen, the Dark Troopers return and quickly retake the ship. They try to enter the bridge, and they all know that they are doomed until a single X-Wing lands. Thinking nothing of it, they continue to fear for their lives until they see that a Jedi is aboard the X-Wing. As the Jedi easily dispatches the Dark Troopers, Gideon is terrified and tries to take out as many people as possible, but the Mandalorians are all able to block it with their Beskar. Knowing he's lost, Gideon tries to kill himself so they could get no information from him, but Cara Dune is able to take him down before that could happen. The Jedi is finished clearing out the rest of the Dark Troopers and enters the bridge. We learn that the Jedi is actually Luke Skywalker, who explains to Djarin that he is here to train Grogu, but Grogu wants Djarin's permission first to be able to leave with Luke. Djarin does give Grogu his permission, promising that he will see him again one day, and finally removes his mask so they can see each other face to face before they depart. Grogu leaves once R2-D2 arrives. Djarin now watches on in tears as Luke and R2 leave with Grogu. We now skip ahead a little bit in the future, where Boba Fett and Fennec Shand are retaking Jabba's palace from Bib Fortuna. They kill him, and Boba Fett presumably takes Fortuna's former title that he took from Jabba as the king of the underworld. Well, there's a lot to say about this episode. So much that this seems like it's going to be the longest episode of my recap yet, not counting the extended versions, just because the recap itself is nearly 4.5 minutes long without this added part on to it, where I review the episode. because we've waited long enough in this video, we're going to go straight out of the gate talking about the appearance of Luke Skywalker, which I think was amazing. I was hoping that he would be in here, but I felt like more of a thing where you're hoping something would happen and it was almost not going to happen. You felt like you knew that. I was not even sure if he was going to show up until the episode got to the point I was talking about in a previous video where they were surrounded by dark troopers and they knew they were going to be done for it. And then the Jedi arrived, which of that I believe they predicted would be either Luke or someone else. I wonder how quickly you were able to figure out it was Luke once he arrived. I was like 90% sure once the X-Wing showed up. I didn't really raise it as much when we saw the security cam footage. Once we saw the lightsaber that was green, I was like 99% sure. And then finally, once we saw the black glove, I was 100% sure it was Luke. And it just kept going up higher and higher from there. The moment I was able to confirm, beyond a reasonable doubt, that this was Luke Skywalker, is when I saw that he had only a glove on his right hand, and his left hand was free, since I knew that's how he dressed after his hand was injured in Return of the Jedi. Since Luke took Grogu, people are probably wondering what will happen with Grogu and Luke, and will the story be told? I think it could be told, but it's likely not to be in a live-action series, because for the show to work the same way the show works, they would have to have Mark Hamill in every episode and digitally de-age him, which I'm guessing will cost a lot of money, and something that Disney may not be willing to do, especially since they could just do something like an animated series, like the Clone Wars, where Luke could be training Grogu and other students, and possibly lead into the Thrawn Trilogy. Speaking of that, the only way I think that we could see the digitally de-aged Luke in live action as a more leading role would be in a version of the Thrawn Trilogy or something like that. But it would have to be a movie and could not be a show, because I feel like with a show they would not be willing to spend that much money on it. Because let's be honest, they probably spent like half the episode's budget just on Mark Hamill and digitally de-aging him for this episode, even though he was in it for like 5 minutes. Again, I will be going over what I think a live-action Thrawn Trilogy movie trilogy would look like I mentioned a few weeks ago, but I wanted to wait for the finale of The Mandalorian to come out for me to be able to talk about that, because I honestly just wanted to see what happens and where everyone was at this point before I made it, so I wasn't going to be changing the information. I had my idea slightly around, just because something changed because of the Mandalorian finale, and I'm glad I waited. Talking about the stuff that's supposed to happen in Season 3, I honestly don't know. I really don't feel like the Book of Boba Fett will be Season 3 of The Mandalorian, and it will be another spin-off show that will happen around the same time. And I actually do have a theory about that. So if you've watched the TV shows of the Arrowverse, they all air around the same time and have one big crossover. If they set it up this way, I think the way they will probably do it is they will start one show, let's say the Book of Boba Fett first, and then 2 or 3 weeks later they start the Mandalorian, and then like 2 or 3 weeks later after that they start maybe Ahsoka, and they do that again for Ranger of the New Republic, so they can keep people subscribed longer, so each show ends a little earlier, and then after all of them end, they could have the crossover episode added on as a final episode to each season once that point hits, or they could have a mini-series that is the crossover between the shows, so that none of them are taking up episode slots for a crossover. Or, there's one thing I just thought of about the Boba Fett show. It may not even be a show. All it said was the Book of Boba Fett is coming in December 2021, and it may be a movie, but who knows? It could be anything. I do feel like that Thrawn was sort of confirmed by what Moff Gideon was saying right before Jar tried to take Grogu in the cell, where Gideon was explaining how Jar should just assume that Gideon's able to know everything that he does. And I feel like that is likely because he's supplied information by Thrawn. But I could be wrong, and that's just a feeling I had in the episode. But honestly, besides that, I have no idea what the plot of next season will be, since everything has been wrapped up nicely in this episode. This episode actually would serve perfectly as a series finale, since it clears everything up and essentially wraps all the loose ends in the show up, with the only major one being what's going to happen with Jaren and the Darksaber and Bo-Katan. And on a smaller scale, you could also be wondering what some other characters in the show are doing at the point. But besides those, if you look at it, this episode basically wrapped off almost every plot point and closed it off, but also gave it a possibility to be continued on to. Besides the Boba Fett show, that's just straight up setting a new show or movie. My best prediction about next season is that it'll leave out Jaren and some other Mandalorians like Bo-Katan, trying to rebuild the Mandalorian society, where they will eventually figure out who will be the next Mandalore. In the season, Bo-Katan will either challenge Jaren for the Darksaber, or she'll eventually realize that Jaren is the one who needs to lead Mandalore. But either way, I feel like there's a higher chance of Jaren ruling Mandalore by the end of the season, with out of the three scenarios I'm thinking of right now, him being able to pull off two of the three of them, with, I mean, the ones I just mentioned, the first one being Bo-Katan just realizing it is best for Jaren to rule, and the other being a 50-50 chance of who wins the fight. Honestly, the only other prediction I do have for next season is, I think, in one episode, or possibly even the final episode of the season, that Jaren will be forced to team up with Moff Gideon to fight a larger Imperial threat, similar to the Mayfeld episode this season, but in that one, Moff Gideon will not be redeemed, and it'll be more like he is forced to work with him, and I'll have an interesting dynamic in that episode. Also, I think that most found it pretty surprising that no one died in this episode, since most videos and polls across YouTube had predictions that someone was going to die in this episode, but it turned out that no one did. Also, I'm predicting that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be mad that Grogu has been removed from the show, because that's the only reason they watch it, and they're going to say that they're not going to watch Mandalorian Season 3 if Grogu isn't returned, but they're also probably going to call him Baby Yoda, because that's just what I'm feeling. I could be totally wrong, but I just feel like there's going to be some kind of controversy here. In the episode, I really did love the scene where Bo-Katan was confronting Boba Fett in the cantina, which was a very intense scene. We saw the two of them clashing with their ideals, with Bo-Katan saying he's not a Mandalorian, and likely hating clones for what they did to Mandalore after Order 66 was executed. And I also love how Dark Troopers was set up as a credible threat for the show, and are still a credible threat as long as there's no Jedi there, which seems unlikely to happen now. So if the Mandalorian has to go up against them again, he definitely will struggle, but since he has the Darksaber now, he will have a slight advantage. But I don't really feel like it's going to be much, and he'll still have a hard time. There's only one moment that was kind of confused me with them. It's when they all freeze once Luke arrives. I would guess that they would just keep going on their thing and going to kill everyone and then take on Luke, especially since they have time. But they don't. That's really the only thing that confused me in this episode. But it's a small thing that I really don't care about. Also, I think that him removing his helmet symbolizes him finally letting go of the rules of the Children of the Watch and becoming a more traditional Mandalorian. And we may see him with the helmet off more next season. Also, I think it's really likely that the armorer will learn about him removing his helmet by either Gideon, who definitely will tell if he sees them, or she will be monitoring some kind of Imperial traffic in communication, and she will learn that he removed his mask from that scan last season. But no matter what, I feel like he is likely out of the Children of the Watch. What could be really interesting is if the Children of the Watch were the antagonists of next season, and Jon has to figure out where his loyalties lie. I just want to quickly mention that this is the only episode that doesn't have any concept art in it, and that it was pretty obvious that there was an end credit scene, since the little bar that appears on Disney Plus didn't appear during this episode once the credits began. I'm going to go over why Bo-Katan couldn't accept the Darksaber in a different video, because I don't think I should be mentioning it in a quick mention in a review of the episode, and deserves its own video. I also want to quickly apologize for not uploading that much. It's just been a crazy last few weeks with the holidays and some finals for college. But I'm planning to return to a more regular upload schedule, definitely after Christmas. Maybe I will push it to New Year's so I can spend a little more time with my family. But it'll be more regular uploads on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And if you watch the videos, please comment if you think I should do a Clone Wars recap, where I go by each episode in chronological order, or do something else. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories, and may the Force be with you.